Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Avery, and I held a newlywed group counseling session here at my church in the youth center of our grounds. Um, it was conducted October the 7th, 2017. The time was from 4 to 6 p.m. on that Saturday evening, and once again, it did take place in one of our buildings, the youth center. I went to the youth center prior to our meeting and arranged the chairs and arranged the environment, ensure that the air was set, and ensure the seats were set in a circular pattern so that there can be the maximum amount of group participation, eye contact, and feeling of togetherness throughout this group exercise. I did have four couples, a total of 8 people, and it was varying in ages and lengths of marriages and nationalities. Our first couple was Charles and Chelsea. Charles is a 29-year-old white male. Chelsea is a 23-year-old Native American female. They've been married for a year and a half. My second couple was Julio and Charity. Julio is a 29-year-old Hispanic male, and Charity is a 29-year-old white female. They've been married for 2 months. They are my youngest marriage couple that we had present. My third group was Christian and Jacinia. Christian is a Hispanic male. Jacinia is a Hispanic female. Christian is 28. Jacinia is 23. They've been married for 10 months. And my fourth group was Seth and Cherie, my fourth couple. Seth is 23 and so is Cherie. Seth is a white male. Cherie is a African American female, and they've been married for 1 year. I am their assistant pastor. That is our link together. And I have had the privilege of knowing these kids, and I'll call them my kids forever, but I've had the privilege of knowing these kids for quite an extended period of time. Most of them I've known since they were all the way back into the youth group, and I've dealt with them on many issues. I've dealt with them with other things, so we have had definitely some history and rapport already been established with them, so that was good. When we did come together, we were all on time. One couple was a few minutes late because of traffic concerns and things that were unavoidable. But as soon as we did come together, we came into the group, sat down, and I brought the group to order, and I expressed my delight for them there and appreciative of their time. And I proposed what was going to happen this evening, that night. And I wanted them to understand that in their young marriage, um, that there are going to come times when differences are going to arise, and that there are going to be times where you're going to have to work in a marriage. But that marriage is a beautiful thing. It is a sacred union, and it's worth fighting for. I also wanted to show some possible similarities and future goals that they have, possibly identify some areas that they did not know of in their spouse as far as um, potential desires or perfect dates per se, so that they could have that information. Basically, information that I found through my time of marriage. I've been married for 21 years, and through the time that I have just found and figured out that hopefully that they might be able to get a heads up and a head start in their marriage with knowing some of these things prior, so they can do the best that they possibly can for their spouse. Once I had expressed the purpose of the group and had everybody at ease and brought everything to order, we started it very friendly. Once again, everyone knows each other, so it was not a difficult task. I didn't have to get past the introduction of strangers. And then we dove right into my first introduction dyad, and I broke these teams up, and I had men with men and women with women, and I told them to find out as much information as possible of the other, so that when we would come back together again, they would stand and make the introduction of that person. That went great. I gave them 10 minutes, and when I called the time and brought the group back together and brought the group back to order, they were still trying to find out things of the other person. It was a good time. It was fun. It was a learning experience. When I had them stand up and introduce each one, um, my goal was to see if there were some things that someone else could find out about the spouse that the wife or the husband did not know about them. There was a few things that came up, but overall, that was pretty good. Everyone knew everything. But we focused that dyads on future goals, and we shared it with the group. We discussed it openly, and looking at identifying the importance of learning the inner parts and the inner workings and the inner thoughts and feelings of the other spouse. After this was accomplished, we did take a break. It was getting a little bit close to time. When we came back from our quick break, we did an activity of self-disclosure. It was a questionnaire ranging from we would like to visit to 3 of our future goals would be, and as a couple we're good at. Many other questions, but that was just an example of some. And they answered them, and when we brought all that back together again, we discussed that openly. I would call on people as we went around, and they would express what it is that they had, and then I would pair that up with their spouse and see how many of those things were linking up. And we did absolutely uncover a lot of things that is going to be incredibly beneficial for them in their future and in their marriage. I use this exercise throughout, opening them up and answering their questions. They would pose a question about vacations, and the whole group would talk about vacations. And by that, we got into stewardship and had to bring the train back on track a little bit from time to time. But we just had a really good open exchange of information and ideas. I did have to cut some of the conversations off a little bit due to the familiarity of these couples and the comfort that they feel. Overall, though, when it was all said and done, my self-assessment is that it went pretty well. We did have a good time. It wasn't a drudgery. And in my personality, I wanted to put them all at ease and be as productive as possible, which I felt that we did. But I do teach. I am a teacher, and I love to talk with people. I found myself falling back into that teacher role often, and I need to get out of that. I understand that. I will do better next time in my planning for more of the counselor role versus the teacher role. And that is what I wanted to take away from with that. The brief summary, the one thing that I would say if my statement is that this is a session, not a lesson, and that it is a group counseling session, not a teaching point or teaching instruction. So that's what I would say in my final, that this is a session, not a lesson. We did learn, we had a good time, and I will be better every time that we do it. Thank you for this opportunity, and have a great day.